good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and thanks for coming back to my channel. It is great to see you here, and thanks for all the amazing comments that I'm seeing below some of my videos. And it's been kind of interesting, the perceptiveness of some of my viewers. Anyway, thank you very much for that. It is much appreciated, and it is great to see that there are so many people participating in the conversation. So what I'd like to speak about this evening, or draw attention to, is a situation in Paris. And this is where the police have used water cannons and smoke grenades, tear gas, on firefighters who are protesting in Paris against the pension reforms and working conditions. And this is absolutely astounding, ladies and gentlemen. This started off with the LFS over a year ago. Now, the LFS were predominantly made up of working folk, and unfortunately groups like Antifa got involved, and there was some violence, and the government got away with labelling these people as the great unwashed. Those people who didn't have a university degree, unfortunately, but were starving nonetheless. Then came the unions protesting the draconian changes that the government was proposing to the pension reform. And as I said in a previous video, that this is basically to strike down the contract that the government couldn't break, and to put you onto a sliding scale. You would have to earn points to get your pension, and I will guarantee you that once that was installed, you would suddenly see that point system and the appropriate values would suddenly start changing. And again, the unionists were painted as lowbrows, as people who weren't worthy even of contempt. But now we have the firefighters, and the firefighters are basically on a par with the police force. Firefighters, police force and ambulance attendants are in the upper echelons of service workers for the government, because they are absolutely your front line, and all of them at some point in their careers put themselves in harm's way, in danger, trying to save someone else or to prevent catastrophe from happening. But for the police, for the government to order the police force to basically open fire with water cannons and smoke grenades and tear gas on the firefighters who are also protesting, the government cannot quite as easily wash that off and basically call this the riffraff of the world, and write it off as just some insubordinates going up against the government. And of course it shows just how far this has spread. You now have three distinctly different groups organizing against Macron. And of course, what is Macron doing? Oh my God. Here he is holding up a t-shirt with a little smirk on his face, and this is a joke about the LBD, these grenade launchers. Now these launchers have taken out 20 eyeballs so far. They've caused all kinds of other wounds. They don't just hit you, they're like a ton of bricks, these things. And of course they have been used liberally by the police and endorsed by the government, even though there's been protests again by many members of the public to stop using these things, because they're supposed to be non-lethal, but they're just a step down from non-lethal. And here he is, Macron, joking about police enforcement and poor people who've lost eyes to these deadly weapons. I don't know how tone deaf you have to be to not get that, to not understand how that's going to be perceived by the public, but there you go. Anyway, I've just done a couple of quick articles here, and then I'll come back and sign off. Okie dokie, here we go. Paris descends into chaos as riot police deploy grenades and water cannons against striking firefighters. Striking firefighters faced off against riot police who deployed water cannons and smoke grenades and erected large metal barriers to block off the fire service as they protested in Paris on Tuesday. Several thousand firefighters protested understaffing, the threat to their government pensions, and a lack of recognition of their work, including risk premiums that matched those of the police and the gendarmerie. Police decried the fact that many protesting firefighters had abandoned the prearranged route, and it didn't take long before the march descended into clashes with riot police. Yep, these are unbelievable scenes. Police repeatedly deployed a variety of crowd-control grenades despite several controversies stemming from their use against both the Yellow Vest protesters and the pension reform protesters. And again from RT, comic hypocrisy, Macron lampooned for posing with anti-police brutality t-shirt. And yeah, here is some of the police brutality taking place. French President Emmanuel Macron has been accused of blatant hypocrisy after he was photographed with a t-shirt satirizing his own government's violent crackdown on anti-austerity protests. Macron paid a visit to the International Comic Book Festival in Angoulême, southwestern France on Thursday, but his appearance likely had the opposite of its intended effect on France's increasingly discontented electorate. A photograph taken during the festival shows the French leader holding up a t-shirt showing a cartoon cat with a bleeding patched-up eye. Under the feline reads LBD 2020, an allusion to the infamous defense ball launcher LBD used by French riot police, as well as the name of the comic book festival, BD 2020. And here he is. He just doesn't seem to get it, does he? Apparently oblivious to the double entendre, Macron is seen cracking a grin as he poses with the shirt, and the very amused cartoonist credited with making it. The photo op gaffe sparked outrage from Macron's critics. Left Party leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon said the incident showed that the French president trivializes police violence. French police have been accused of using excessive force to quell anti-austerity and Yellow Vest protests across the country. More than 20 protesters have lost eyes in demonstrations against Macron's deeply unpopular reforms. So now, I just want to reiterate, I know I may sound like a broken record here, but I would just like to reiterate that you cannot listen to the words of these elites, the globalists, the people who are in charge, because their words are coated with honey. They are designed to soothe you, to lull you into complacency. What we have to do is to watch the actions of these people. And we can quite plainly see that a government would open up with water cannons and tear gas on its own citizens. That's a bit of an eye-opener. You know, we have to be aware that any one of us, the firefighters, Yellow Vests, Unionists, that includes probably 90% of Ontario right now. Think about that. I'm just going to let that settle in. Think about that for a second. Is that how we want to go forward? Where you don't have a voice? Going forward, we have to really understand what is going on here and the dangerous potential of our inaction and not speaking up about what we're seeing happen before our very eyes. Okay, well, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. Okay, you take care now. See ya. Bye.